This is Propulsion, the podcast where we dive deep into the nitty-gritty of taking your business and your practice to the next level. Whether you are an entrepreneur, a franchisee, or a financial planning pro, you are in the right place. We're talking the latest tech, best practices, and expert insights, all while keeping it real and entertaining. So grab a coffee, sit back, and let's get ready to blast off. I'm your host, Francois du Toit. Business development. So I've been thinking about this a little bit over the last while and thinking, but what is the difference between prospecting and lead generation and business development? Isn't that all the same thing? And it turns out that no, it's not. So when you start and do a little bit of research about this, this is a danger where we hear certain words and we say, well, that makes sense. It means that I need to find clients and I need to sell to people. That's business development, right? But if you really separate those two things, you would understand that lead generation and prospecting is a process within business development, because we can do all sorts of business development, but unless we find clients and we sell to them and we convert them to clients, it's not going to be sustainable for the business. So those are some of the things that are deeply important when we want to talk about this particularly today. Also, if you want to grow continuously as a business, I had a long meeting yesterday where we're busy with things with one of the corporates, and a lot of the conversation was around actually business development. So it is quite an interesting thing. It's something that's very top of mind for me at the moment. And if you want to grow your business, sometimes you think you need more clients, but it's not often the case. Yes, more clients will lead to more business, hopefully. Or, when you started off in this business, it was all about your activity. You got to phone 100 people and you get your 10 or 20 or whatever appointments, and you close 3 or 4, 5 or 10 of them, whatever it may be. But it's a numbers game. So you want to sell 5 policies a month, you need to phone 100 people. You want to sell 10, you probably have to phone 200 people. That was the thing, right? So that's how everybody started in this. Now, over time, this has shifted, and I think this is why it's so critically important, just veering a little bit off the topic here just for a second, that it's so important that you put on a business owner hat. Doesn't matter if it's just you in your practice or you an assistant, whether you're building your practice inside of another business, you have to put on the cap of the business owner. You've got to put on your thinking cap, your strategy cap. You've got to do those things, because without that, you're going to miss out on other opportunities that will lead to you getting more clients. And there's better ways of sort of structuring the business. So business development for me particularly is much more of a strategy, which composes of many different components, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But it's really about saying, well, what is the plan here? How am I going to? It's almost like when you go fishing. I don't have a better analogy this morning. But when you go fishing, right, you can either just go and put your bait on and throw it in, or what a lot of people do, I don't know what they call it in English. If anybody can help me out, please do so. Maar voerplek, jy maak voerplek. So it's like a feeding ground thingy that you create to attract a lot of fish. And then that's where you actually throw the bait in order to catch fish. And your chances of getting more fish is so much higher than just randomly throwing the line into the river or the dam or even into the sea. I see so many people fishing. I've never seen anybody pull a fish out of the on the beach since I've been here. But anyway, so it's really about thinking this. So for me, business development is almost like creating this feeding ground. But there's a lot of things that you need to know about yourself, about your business, and sort of where you want to go with this. The lead generation happens as a result of the business development that we are doing and that we put in place. So those are really, for me, just be clear on those, because a couple of episodes ago, maybe 3 episodes ago, roundabout, or 4 episodes even, we spoke about, lead generation strategies that anybody can use. So with those, if you want to go look at those, you're welcome to, because those are very tactical. It's specific things that you can do, things that you can host in order to attract more clients. But that in itself is not business development. So I think I've made my point. I hope so. Do share your comments and your views as well. Please, I'll get to them at the end. But this is really, really important. And I think some of the things that we want to think about, that just if we think about lead generation, it's all about marketing, it's all about sales and those kinds of things. Whereas we start talking about business development, we really start thinking about markets. So what markets do I want to go into? I so often talk to people that say, or advisors that say, I would love to do more, work more with business owners, but I don't know how to get into that space. But there's a market, professionals can be a market, specific careers. You could decide that you work very well. Maybe you were a teacher once, you understand what they're going through, and you can really resonate with that. Some of you are focused on families with children, and so there's these very specific target markets that you've got. But if you want a business develop, so initially you'll start with one. So think about Amazon, for example. So Amazon started off just selling books. Today they sell pretty much everything. And not only do they sell it, they have other people selling on their platforms as well. So you start thinking about that's business development for me. So first, they just did books. So first, you only work with this market. And you can decide to stay within that market. And if you want a business develop, you may start thinking about what else can I offer my target market? Because that's one way. So think about products, not in the sense of financial products, just what can you productize, going back to your value and your value proposition. How do you productize that? So whether it's lifestyle financial planning that you offer as a product, whether it's maybe a bit of coaching that you offer as part of that, maybe it's something completely different, right? So those could be products that you could say, well, I can create something because there's a specific need within this target market. So business development means I have an additional product to sell. So it could mean something as simple as that. The other thing that we can do is obviously open up new markets. So I don't only want to work with families with small children or with young children. I also want to work with business owners. And then I also maybe want to work with professionals. And we set up the business in such a way that we have a specific offering targeting that specific market. So by broadening your markets or having multiple markets that you sell into through your business, because remember, if you have a business hat on, you might sit there now and say, maybe you sit there and you say, yeah, but it's just me, Francois. I can't serve 3 markets. Fair, that's given. But if we just put on the hat and we say, well, what is possible and what could we do, then that can make a massive difference just in the opportunities that you see. And you might find that your current market, maybe you resonate more with the other market. But maybe you need some skills in order to transition into that market. Maybe you need a network. Maybe you need resources. Remember the 5 rings that we spoke about? So those are the things that maybe you might need to transition into that to be able to do that. But that's very important. Also, when we think about business development, one of the biggest things, and I saw this through conversations very recently, where the one thing that I picked up, because I often just sit there and listen, and the one big thing that I picked up from that is that when we go at things alone, you try and do everything yourself and you're alone and it's hard, right? And the growth is slow and the opportunities are much fewer than if we were 2 or 3 people in the room discussing something, 2 or 3 people actually working together to each build our own business, but also to build each other's businesses. So partnerships is another way of doing business development. So you can see that, maybe the referrals that we send each other, maybe that's lead generation. That's a small part of it. But the actual relationship that we build to form that partnership with each other, that is the thing that ultimately is business development. So what we're really trying to do through business development, if you start thinking about all of these kinds of things, is that we want to grow the business, but we want to create long-term sustainability. Because if you don't do business development all the time, your business is going to die at some point, because otherwise you either serve the market completely and there's not much more that you can do for them, or maybe the products that you offer have gone out of date. They're not as effective anymore, or people are not interested in those anymore. Maybe your service proposition has sort of stayed behind a little bit because you decided not to take on new strategies and new approaches. You've just been doing things the way that you've been doing it always because it's always worked, and suddenly you don't understand why you're not growing. So it could have been all of those kinds of things. So business development is the thing that it's like the fuel for the business that keeps you moving forward, at the risk of stealing one of the bank's taglines. But the other big thing when you think about this is that, just going back to what Tanya was talking about a little bit about also positioning yourself differently and standing out from the crowd. That's so important. And I think what Johan said there, I saw in the comments, he said, sprinkle in your Clifton strings in between your value proposition and all of that kind of stuff. Those are the things that make you stand out and that make you unique. So the way that you structure your business and the sort of ways that your business develop, those are the things that's also going to give you a competitive edge, funny enough. So think about those. And the more you do this and the better you do this, and it doesn't mean that you have to spend time on it every single day. Depending on the size of your business, you may want to spend a lot of time on it. Maybe you can't because you don't have the time and the resources to do so. But what you can't do is not do anything. So it's really important, because if you do this, you will have a competitive edge and you will position yourself as a market leader, even if it's just in your area. That's very, very crucial, I would say, for that. Also, if we start thinking about what is your overall strategy for the business, where you're going, what was the vision that when you started this business? Is that vision still valid? Is that still where you're headed? Is that still the dream that you want to achieve at the end of the day? But it's important that however you do your business development is that it actually align to the vision and to the mission and to what is important to you and the business. Because it doesn't help out, this is important to me, and they're not going to do something completely contradictory to that. So as these things align more and more and more, the more success you're going to find. So what are some of the key components of business development? I just want to spend a couple of minutes on that quickly. First of all, you've got to know your market or markets. Whatever new market you want to go into, do you know and understand that market? And if the answer is no, then market research is the thing that's going to help you understand the market more. And there's quite a few ways that you can do that. You can look at white papers. You can look at all sorts of trends and things that's going on. You can see what people are searching for about that. But also just by talking to those people, maybe attending their conferences, maybe learning just more, getting involved in the social media groups where those people interact with each other, you will learn a lot by just watching, right? So market research is a very important thing. And again, sorry, going back to my discussion yesterday in that meeting, there's lots of things that one can do. And there's a big difference in when you are building a big business with multiple people in the business and you're a small business where it's just yourself. So I always want to make this distinction between the two, because you will do things at a whole different level when you're a big business than when you're a small business. But it doesn't mean that because you're small, you shouldn't be doing market research. So very important. A big part, though, that doesn't matter what size business you are. And for bigger businesses, it's sometimes easier. And that's a massive assumption from my side. But if you think about one of the 5 rings that we spoke about in one of the other episodes was network, right? The ring of fellowship, remember? So we were talking about that, and it's about building a strategic network. Be very intentional with the type of businesses that you build relationships with. Remember now, from a business development point of view, not from I want them to be a client of mine, because business development is not about selling to them. It's about partnering with them and saying, how can we both serve this target market together? And how can we together do things better than if we were to do it alone? So those are the important parts. So think about who are the key stakeholders. If you just look at your existing client base, do you maybe have, just look at your phone, who's in your phone? And if you can't find anybody, then start thinking about, what would be cool? Sorry for the blatant sort of plain English, but what would be cool to have? If I had a relationship, how awesome and amazing it would have been for me to have fantastic relationships with all the universities, for example. I don't have that, right? So the only place that I had a good relationship with is Millpark Education. So the other units, I've never done anything to do that. So maybe that is a massive thing that I could go and look at just from my business's perspective. But are there any of those kinds of things that are top of mind? She's like, wow, it would be cool. And some of you are here today and you would go like, I've got all these things in place and that's absolutely fantastic. brilliant. But for most of us, I think it's not the case. We don't think it's really possible to build relationships with those people. And it takes one introduction. So do you know anybody that could introduce you? Or do you know somebody that can introduce you to someone that can then ultimately introduce you? And I'll be very upfront about my intentions. Those are the best ways to do that. The third part of business development is obviously brand. And this was also an interesting conversation that I had in the last while about this whole thing around personal and business. And that, even big businesses that's been around for quite a while and that's got large teams, etc., their brand is there, but it's also not there yet, kind of thing. So brand is something that you have to work on intentionally again. So very important to be working on brand. So far we've got to do market research. You've got to build strategic networks. You've got to be working on the business branding as well as your personal brand. Specifically in the early days, it's very important to work on your personal brand and be the person. Because remember, financial services are extremely personal. So you want to build that personal brand anyway, as a starting point. Then the fourth one is client relationship management, which I think goes without saying. That's what we're all good at. It's the thing that we know makes our businesses work. But what are the little things that we can do to enhance the client engagement, to get people to engage with us more and have deeper discussions and more meaningful discussions and feel that, yes, this business gets me, this advisor gets me, this planner gets me. I've never experienced this before. There's an emotion that goes with that. So are we doing this? And are we intentional again about this, going back to 2 episodes ago when we spoke about, those strategic client touch points? And of course, the other part of this, very importantly, it's not only about client engagement. It's not only about client experience. It's also about client satisfaction. So we do need to measure all of those things and think about those. And what are we taking from that and implementing back into the business? So the fourth one there is client relationship management. The last component, it's not, by no means are these the only components, but the last one is obviously thinking a little bit differently or coming up with new ways or trying new ways, because often we're so afraid just to go and try, and then we do nothing. And we hope that something will change somewhere in the future. Or then you see somebody else doing what you were thinking all along and you go like, should have done that. But innovation is really important. So you've got to think about what new services can I develop? So there's many different things here, or what can I do with my existing offerings to make them better? And I mean, there's time and discussions. And the one other thing that I again experienced in the last 2 weeks, just having numerous conversations in group settings, is that get more people in the room, whether it's virtual or whether it's in person. Get your team involved. Don't sit there and try and figure this out all on your own. Work with the people that are working in your business. Get focus groups together with your clients. It doesn't have to be a whole day thing or a 3-hour thing. It could be an hour thing. Get them in for muffins and coffee and say thank you, and then have a bit of a discussion and do a bit of a focus group. Get somebody outside to come and facilitate that for you if that's needed. But you got to change things up all the time. So you either create new things or you make what you've got better, right? So very important. Then some practical business development strategies. I want to break this down into, I think, what small firms can do, mid-sized firms, and then also large firms. Because as I said, what you're sometimes able to do is very different depending on where you are. So let me start off with just sort of the smaller firms. And whether you're in a practice or you have a business, your own FSP, like a firm for me is like, if you've got a business mindset, I'm going to talk about a firm. So one, think about your existing networks and your local networks that you can use, things where you can get involved, things that you can attend, things where you can contribute to. Do that. I know of people that are very active because they cycle. So with everybody that's cycling around them, they're very involved with that, or running. Some sports kind of thing is always the easy thing because you've got something in common there. And then, but it could also be that, you get involved in some kind of a business net. I'm not the biggest fans of those things, but you could get involved in a business network. Or, if your target market is the medical fraternity, how involved are you in their things? Are you attending their conferences? Are you building those things? So think about those local networks already, the local attorney, the local accountant. If you're somebody who prefers to still see a lot of people in person and you geographically sort of bound by that, for the majority of your client base, then that's something that I would definitely look at. And also then, if you're smaller, like think back to when Amazon started, books. That's what they did. So think about focusing and really honing in on one specific market and be very specific with that. But always remember that when you focus on a market, the market has to be big enough so that it's actually worth it, and you've got a high chance of success. And then also, you've got to leverage social media and digital marketing strategies. So whether it's email and things like that, you have to use that to the fullest extent that you possibly can. There's so much free you can get. The only cost is time. And sometimes, when you also then get, let's say, video editors involved or people who take photographs, and there could be a cost, but that all depends on you. Ultimately, you can do most of those things for free, and it's always mostly about the content. It's mostly about the message. It's mostly about people seeing you and being able to connect and build a relationship with you. So don't overthink those things as well. Just make sure it's in line with a brand that you are showcasing elsewhere. So that's very important. Then for mid-sized firms, right? So they, because typically if you want to create a fantastic alliance with somebody, the bigger you are, it helps. The bigger both of you are, the easier it becomes to have those conversations. If I, as a very small business, go to a big corporate and say, oh, I want to form an alliance with you and let's see what we can do together, chances are very slim that they're going to say yes from that point of view. So, I mean, think about just me rocking up at one of the massive lawyer firms and saying, like, you know what, I want to do X, Y, and Z. I typically work with teachers, but I would really like to get into this market. They're going to go like, but what do you know about the market? What do you know about what we do? What do you know? And if you can support that, that's fine. But typically that's harder for a small firm. So that's why local networks work better. Mid-sized firms, you can be really strategic about those alliances that you want to build. And also, you can get more involved on maybe committees and sort of industry bodies and things like that as well. And usually there's a little bit more cash flow, so you can invest in more advanced kind of CRM systems and things that can do things at a level that maybe smaller firms can't do. So that's one thing, some of the things that one could do. Also then from a large, the bigger you are, the more you can start thinking internationally as well, because typically there will be large businesses like yours that are overseas and that they're looking to maybe do some stuff in South Africa. You're looking to do stuff over there, or you just need somebody to help with some of your clients over there. So that could be something to do. Also, one of the things that's happening a lot, and we had a whole episode on this last year, was about acquiring smaller practices. So one of the ways to grow is to just buy other businesses, right? But that's not necessarily something that works for a small firm. I think with small firms, what will be fantastic, and this is something that we're not seeing enough of yet, but if the right 2 or 3 people with their own small FSP or financial institution, as they're going to be called, gets together and they form one business, there's lots that you need to make sure is in place before you make that decision. But you start bringing these 3 businesses together. So it's more of a merger than an acquisition. So you're not buying each other's businesses. You are combining the businesses so that you can get efficiencies. And suddenly there's a lot more that you can do from that perspective. But it's still small enough to be personal and to be agile and to be all of those kinds of things. But that could be something that you can do in order to grow as well. But for larger firms, acquiring the smaller FSPs, for example, for those guys who are really not in the mood anymore, or maybe just things have gotten so tough that they would say, well, I would rather just want to do the work of a financial advisor, and I'm not really concerned with running a business and all the compliance and all the systems and processes and all the other things that I need to manage. I just want to enjoy myself and be a financial planner. So that is definitely a big one for those. And then also, I think the biggest thing probably for large firms as well is kind of training that they can provide, particularly in-house. So what kind of development programs do you have in order to make sure that everybody in the business is efficient, they're productive, but they also add maximum value that they possibly can? So those are some of the ideas just around some business development strategies. So hopefully that gives you some ideas. I do think that there are obviously there's loads of opportunities, but there's also some risks. There's definitely, and it's very interesting to see the conversations. There's definitely a rise in the demand for financial plans, specifically in South Africa, right? So there's financial literacy, but then there's financial planning and financial advice and all of these things. And different people have different views on these, but that demand is only going to go up. If you look at the amount of people that are entering the mainstream, even though we've got very high unemployment, there's still a massive, massive need for this. So that's the opportunity, right? And how can we be innovative around that? How can we come up with different ways? Are there new markets we can identify that didn't exist before? So what are the kinds of things that we can do? Also, if you just think about technology, to talk about technology, that brings a lot of opportunity as well, if you do it right. So I'm not going to get too much into that. But just if you think about just being more efficient as the person next door, just being more responsive than the person next door is already setting you apart and can help you with growing your firm. As far as the risks are concerned, obviously with business development is that, there is more competition. And as you'll see, I see this on a daily basis, that more and more and more independent financial advisors, people that I thought would never, ever join a larger FSP, they're doing it. They are absolutely doing it. It's heartbreaking sometimes, because for me, it's like, you invested so much into your business. Now I do that, but I completely understand why. So that's one of the things, like there's increased competition, and the larger FSPs are getting larger, which means they've got the brand, they've got all the things that we're talking about. So those are the things, like if you're not business developing in your smaller firm, you might find that it's getting harder and harder and harder. Also, all the regulation that's coming, obviously we know about that. It's really putting a lot of pressure on us. There's a lot of time that we spend, a lot of things to be done. And now moving into this risk-based approach and principle-based approach and all of that, where we need to prove what we're doing and not just tick a box, that's gonna be a different ballgame as well. And obviously, the big one as well is integrating technologies. And often, people have said, well, I'm here and now I'm going to do that. And then that doesn't work for them. They want to come back. Or like, it's just this whole thing about deciding on what technology to use. And then the pain of implementing all of those. It's all worth it if it's done well in the end. But ultimately, there is a risk there, because it's taking your eye off the ball from that perspective, specifically in your smaller firms. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, but those are definitely some important ones. So just briefly to recap, just know that lead generation and prospecting is a small part of business development. It's the lifeblood of the business, but ultimately business development is opening more business opportunities. In other words, markets, products, and those kinds of things that we can do. Also, strategic alliances or partnerships and things can really, really help with that, because that in itself is the gateway into opening more markets and be able to come up with different things, etc. So we spoke about the key components of that, market research, being strategic in your networking, your brand, how you manage your client relationships, as well as being innovative and coming up with new things or enhancing what you've already got and do it in new and refreshing ways, maybe. And then we spoke about small, medium, and large business strategies. So I'm keen to hear what your thoughts are. So please do share it with us in the chat. Frank says, I constantly see people rise in life who are not the smartest, sometimes not even the most diligent, but they are learning machines, which is a quote from Charlie Munger. Absolutely amazing. Johan says it helps to understand how you think as an entrepreneur. There are assessments to give you that information. And by the way, I am getting Johan on the show where we will take all the things that I've spoken about this year so far, and then let's see what Johan can sprinkle on top of that. So looking forward to having him on. Carol says, from the employee benefits space, which is very specialized from a business development perspective, there is a huge need to ensure members or employees are provided with an optimal value proposition. The business model canvas is a nice tool. I love the business model canvas. There's so much pearls of wisdom, says Frank, remembering my mentor, late Lionel Pillay, put your head down and see people. As you develop relationships over time, you then start pruning your tree. Fantastic. Johan giving some more stuff about that. Let's see. Neil says, a great quote. There may be a gap in the market, but is there a market in the gap? Yeah, that's so important. And fantastic. Thank you very much. All right. So next week, my guest is, can you guess who my guest is going to be? Oh, my guest next week is Tim Slatter. And it's about time to get Tim on the show. It's been we're in season 5, so looking forward to chatting to Tim next week. And keep an eye out. We will announce exactly what we are going to be talking about. So looking forward to have Tim on the show next week. And until then, we'll be back next week, same time, same place. Stay safe, be blessed and prosper, and continue to raise the bar. Love you lots. Bye-bye. All right, folks, that's a wrap for this episode of Propulsion. I hope you got as much out of this as I did. Remember to tune in every Friday at 8 a.m. South African time for our live show called Propulsion Live. You can find it at www.propulsion.co.za/live. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, hit that subscribe button or the follow button and share it with your friends, colleagues, and anyone else you think would get something out of it. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.